Welcome back to today's video, and today we're diving in to talk about everything to do with taking profits and laddering out when the time is right. As always, if you enjoy the content, please make sure to smash that thumbs up button below, hit that subscribe button as well, and if you want to get notified about similar videos, smash that bell notification icon, and don't forget to grab your free copy of The Rise of Bitcoin. It's going to be linked down in the description below. Grab it while it's free. It is my gift to you, and let's get into the video. So, what is more important than investing in crypto and Bitcoin is understanding and knowing when to take profits. And the reason I wanted to make this video right now, guys, is because when we get further into the bull market, when prices are soaring, when different tokens are doing 10, 20, 30% gains in a single day, you are going to be clouded and your judgment is going to be clouded. So you will be not thinking in a rational state. And I've been through this myself multiple times where you will not be in a position where you're thinking clearly and in a position where you're able to execute on a profit-taking or laddering out strategy when you are in the midst of that chaos of prices rallying by huge percentages day over day, week over week. And really, there is only a period of about a few weeks where you could potentially catch, that top 10% when a coin gets to its ultimate peak and is getting towards those prices where it's going to peak out in terms of its new all-time highs. You only have a few days oftentimes to actually catch that perfect peak. And if we're being realistic, the likelihood of you catching that perfect peak or that perfect all-time high is extremely low. And for that reason, it is better to be prepared, it is better to have a plan, and it is better to have a strategy in place for consistent profit taking at various price points as you scale out of your position when we start to hit those various price points. So that is what we're talking about in today's video. And I've created this ladder out strategy spreadsheet. And yes, you will have access to this. You can grab it. There is a link below this video in the description. You can get this spreadsheet yourself and you can update it for the assets that you hold in your portfolio. I'm going to talk through this spreadsheet right now, but you can grab it in the description. You're going to want to click on File, make a copy, and then you're going to create your own copy of this spreadsheet and start plugging in the assets that you're holding in your portfolio and plugging in how much of those assets you currently hold in order to be strategic about taking profits and laddering out of those positions as we move through the bull cycle. So, without further ado, let's jump in. As you can see, what we have here is basically a breakdown of all the different tokens that we have in a sample portfolio here. This is an example portfolio, but you can see here that we've got, for example, 100 Solana tokens. So you're going to want to basically plug in, if you're holding Solana as part of your portfolio, you will write Sol here and you will denote specifically how many Solana tokens you are holding as part of your bull run portfolio. Same thing here, SUI, we've got 6,000 SUI, Aero, we've got 8,800 Aero, Jupe, we've got 10,000 Jupe tokens, and Kaspa, we've got 100,000 Kaspa tokens, okay? That's the first thing you're going to want to plug in, and then you can see over here that this portfolio snapshot gives us a view as to those dollar amounts once we scale out of our positions and helps us to visualize what that looks like from a portfolio snapshot perspective, okay? So this data here for each of the tokens in your portfolio is being pulled from the data here and the total value of your position once you exit it. So next thing we're going to look at here is the sell percentages. And what this means is what we're saying at each step of the ladder out strategy. Firstly, we're going to sell 10% of our position once Solana hits $499. We're going to sell 10 tokens. So this sell works based on a formula for multiplying 10% by the total amount of Solana that's in our portfolio, which is equal to 10 tokens because we've got 100 Solana. 10% of 100 is 10 Solana tokens. Selling 10 tokens or 10% when Solana reaches $499 would equal $4,999 in our wallet. Okay? Very important. Next up, we've got the next 20% of our portfolio, which we're going to sell once Solana reaches $599. So we're going to have a sell order for another 20%, which is equal to 20 tokens in this case, because again, 20% of 100 is equal to 20 tokens. And again, selling that at $599 per token will give us an additional 11,980. Next, we've got another 20% at $699, the next 30% at $799, and the final 20% of our tokens once we get up to about $1,299. Now, it's worth noting that this last 20% is, it's up to you where you want to put the upper bound of your range. But the idea here is that we are 80% out of our position already by the time we get to $799 on Solana, for example. And then we're going to let that last 20% run as much as possible. And just like I was saying a moment ago, it's going to be nearly impossible to catch the perfect peak of the new all-time high for Solana. So the idea here is that we will let the last 20% run beyond $800 and then execute a sell order once we think we're getting close to a top. But we've already locked in, or sold 80% of our Solana bag, and we've already locked in, as you can see here, $55,000 out of the total of 80,000 that we're estimating that we're going to get based on the fact that we've laddered out of Solana and laddered out of our position at each step of this journey. Okay? So the idea is that the last 20% we're going to kind of let run for that moonshot because, we think Solana is going to get towards $799. But in the scenario where we start to go towards $900, $950, $1,000, $1,100, $1,200, that last 20% is going to catch as much of that value as possible, and then we will execute a sell order for that final 20%. Okay? So the same scenario is played out for all of these different tokens in your portfolio. So let's look at the SUI example very quickly, because again, if we've got 6,000 SUI, we're going to sell 10% of those when SUI reaches $7. That's 600 SUI tokens sold for $4,200. We're going to sell the next 20% at $8, the next 20% at $10, the next 30% at $12, and the final 20% at $15. Okay, so again, this last 20% is going to be let run after $12 to, it might go to 13, it might go to 15, it might even go to $18. But that last 20% we're going to let run and execute a sell order when we think we're reaching or getting close to that peak. And again, the totals column here is showing us the total value of the sum of all of those numbers or those values where we've executed the sell order at each stage during the run-up in price of that token. And again, the sum of these sells is equal to $65,400 in the case of SUI here. Okay, now it is worth noting you can play around with these percentages yourself. It doesn't have to be 10, 20, 20, 30, 20. You might want to sell, 20% of your bag when it gets to $7 and only, 10% at $8 and then 20, 30, 20. So you can play around with these numbers. You might only want to let the last 10% ride. So you could change this to 10% and you could update this number to 40% so that we're only having the final 10% run beyond the $12 mark. So again, you can play around and tweak with these numbers ever so slightly yourself. And then the second big variable here is obviously what price do we sell each specific token at? And again, if you're familiar with the channel here, guys, you know that we've done a whole bunch of price prediction videos. You can check all those out on the channel. But once again, the idea here is basically that we have done all of these price prediction videos and we have executed or given you a bear case, base case, and bull case scenario. And in the case of SUI, you can see our most recent price prediction. We talked about the fact that SUI could go to, about $6.66 in a bear case, $13 in a base case, and even close to $20 in the most bullish case scenario. So again, if we look at our ladder out strategy, you can kind of see how we have different price points along that scale between, $7 and $15. We think it could even get close to $20. So, I might even update this for my portfolio if I'm thinking about tweaking this 20%. Maybe this number goes to something more like $17, So what we use is we use these price prediction scenarios for a bear case, base case, and bull case in order to inform the sell prices for our ladder out strategy. And again, on the channel, we've done about 50 of these different price prediction videos for 50 or 60 different tokens at this point. You can check all those out on the channel. But the sheet here is basically a strategic tool for you guys to use so that you can position yourself, have a strategy in place, and be ready to ladder out and take profits as we move through the bull cycle. The other thing to mention here is that we do need to have or set limit orders for all of these different ladders or rungs on the ladder, let's call them, where we go into our centralized exchange or we go into our wallet on a decentralized exchange and we set up a limit order for selling 10% of SUI at $7. We set up another limit order for selling another 20%, in this case 1,200 tokens at $8. We set up the next limit order for selling another 1,200 tokens at $10. And we do this, months in advance. So I will be going in Q4 of this year and Q1 of next year to be setting up all of these limit orders for my bull run portfolio bags in order to scale out and ladder out of these positions when the price hits these different targets along my ladder out strategy. So again, the final thing to note here in this entire portfolio spreadsheet ladder out strategy tracker is basically that the total of your ladder out strategy for all of your assets. So this number here, 718,900, is basically the sum total of these black boxes here, which are the individual totals for each of these assets in the spreadsheet. So what this is doing is it is automatically calculating your, let's say, bull run cash out total once you sell each of these assets at each of the rungs of the ladder. It's giving you 80,000 Solana, 67,000 SUI, 114,000 Aero, 130,000 Jupe, 325,000 Caspa, and this number, 718,000, is the sum total of each of the 5 assets in this particular ladder out strategy sample portfolio. So, once again, I cannot understate the importance of having a well mapped out strategy for profit taking and laddering out of your positions as we move through the bull market. You will be clouded and your judgment will be clouded when we get into the hysteria and the chaos of those crazy price movements later on in the bull cycle. So having a plan, having something in place, setting those limit orders well in advance for each of these positions to scale out of and lock in those profits so that you have a nice amount of profit when the time is right and before we, end up riding the wave up and riding it down. We don't want to ride it down without taking profits. We need to have a strategy in place. We need to have a plan, and this spreadsheet will hopefully help you to execute and set up that plan for yourself and for your own portfolio. You can grab the spreadsheet in the description below. As I said, there's a link below in the description. Grab the spreadsheet. It's 100% free. I want to give it to you. Make a copy, map out your own portfolio, and let's get that strategy in place. As always, if you enjoy the content, please make sure to smash that thumbs up button below. Hit that subscribe button as well. And if you want to get notified about similar videos, smash the bell notification icon. And don't forget to grab your free copy of The Rise of Bitcoin. It's going to be linked in the description along with that spreadsheet. Grab it while it's free. It is my gift to you, and we'll catch you in the next one.